Welcome back to the Oriole Skills Guide. We're progressing along nicely here, about to enter Valley of the Wind, and wave goodbye to all those safety saves that we used to be able to do, because in this segment, we're learning Charge Dash. So right off the top here, we're coming up on a Charge Flame wall. If you're at full energy at this point, because you saved before the Charge Flame tree, and then started to save anywhere off of that one, you can actually use Charge Flame to blow up this wall, because we'll get a free energy crystal soon after this. If you are down 1 energy, then that's fine. Just stomp the wall, which is what I'll do here. So you stomp in, I'm going to grab this ability cell and head over to the left. Not much to say about this, just heading up, stomping this post, there's our extra energy crystal. Sometimes that energy crystal can rocket off in weird directions, and if you're relying on it to refill your energy, then you need to make sure you track it down, but here it was nice to us. Depending on your movement in, the frog to the left will be in various positions. Here with the movement I did, he's in a nice position to just let me bash up to the right wall right away, but sometimes you might have to head to the left first. So we'll just jump up this section, bashing off of things and dashing through the air. Since we've picked up air dash at the spirit tree, we're getting good use out of that bash to air dash tech. Here is a little bit of a trick to get this ability cell. We're going to bait this bird above us to dash at us into the wall. It'll bounce off, and then we can stomp the bird. The AoE effect of stomp gets close enough to this wall to actually break it. So that lets us do something like this. Now, if your wall jumping is not particularly clean, if you're dropping too much time, like hanging on the wall too long or not getting your double jumps in, then the bird might actually hit you, and then you may be in for a world of hurt, because you do need this cell. So if you're having troubles with it, it might not be a bad idea to place a safety save before this. There is some ways to refill your energy here. It just costs a little bit of time, but of course dying costs a lot more time. So grab this cell and head over here. And we're just going to jump out and back to bait the spider into giving us a ladder of shots to climb, and this will get us another ability cell. At this time, I should note that this segment is done differently in top level runs, because a trick called Fast Stompless is pulled off here, but it's unnecessary and a little bit difficult, so like some of the other tricks along the way, it's just linked in the description, a playlist to optional tricks, and you can check it out there. So we're going to head up here, we're going to place a save up next to these rocks, and then it's time to level up Charge Dash. So we're going to grab those 2 abilities, so we're up to Sea Ash, and then we're going to head over, stomp the rocks, and start the feather cutscene. So, unfortunately, you can't skip this cutscene, you just gotta hang out and watch the feather fall slowly down, but that gives you a nice break before the run gets super intense with the new Charge Dash tech. And to talk a little bit about what Charge Dash now lets us do, we're going to hop in game and take it for a spin. So now that we have Feather and Charge Dash, it's time to take a moment to talk a little bit about Charge Dash mechanics before we continue on. So Charge Dash can be charged instantly, unlike Charge Jump. You don't need to wait for this thing to charge fully up. You can just start charging and immediately dash. So that's using the Charge Jump and dash binds. Now, it's recommended a lot of people will use a single bind to do charge dashes, because you're going to be using them frequently from now on, and pressing 2 buttons for it every time can be kind of a pain when you're doing a bunch of them in sequence. Now you might say, well, how often can you really use it? It costs energy, right? Yes, but there are a lot of ways to refund charge dash energy. For example, bashing before your charge dash finishes will refund your energy. And the reason for this is because the developers of the game didn't want people to waste energy on a charge dash that got cut short, so to speak. But the methods of cutting a charge dash short are quite extensive. So there's bashing, stomping, taking damage, going into a cutscene, going underwater. All of these things, and I think there are probably a few more, will give you your energy back for a charge dash. So the most frequent one you'll be using is just a charge dash into a bash. And one thing to note about this is from the moment you press bash, you have half of a second, if you're holding the button, to find a target to bash, and the bash will go off. So a charge dash only takes about 1/6 of a second to complete, so you can bash at the same time you initiate the charge dash, and it will go off consistently. Now, as for stomping, the other method that we have control over all of the time for canceling a charge dash, you can do something like this, where you charge dash and then stomp to get your energy back. Now, this technique gets used a fair bit in high-level runs. I wouldn't worry about it too much for when you're just learning the game. You can add it in later. And I won't use it too much in this guide, but I just want to mention about how charge dashing with stomp cancels works. Basically, a charge dash into a single stomp is useful here and there, but it's much more powerful of a technique when you use a double jump to get out of your stomp, like that. So you're limited by your jumps to how much you can do this, but you can get movement chains going like that, which is really fast, faster than dashing. And you can even throw in potentially some uncancelled charge dashes to get longer movement chains, using a little bit of energy, like this. So, another charge dash mechanic that we have to mention here is rocket jumping, because we're going to use it right away. Now, as you may know if you played around with charge dash before, what charge dash does is it homes onto enemies, whether they're above you or wherever. It homes onto them like that. Now, like dash gliding, where we, cancel ourselves out of a dash and get some interesting effects, the same thing happens with charge dashing. Like, you can dash glide out of a charge dash, but it's a lot more interesting when you cancel out of a charge dash that's going vertically, because the game doesn't zero your vertical speed like it does your horizontal speed, and since the game has now forgotten that you were dashing, it forgets to decelerate you. So what this looks like is this, which, as you can imagine, is pretty useful for getting back up to Sorrow Pass, which is where we're going next. So the way that a rocket jump works is you charge dash at something above you, and then you jump out of the rocket jump. And as mentioned in the configuration guide, this can be set on a single bind, because you can jump on the same frame that you charge dash, and you will get the rocket jump effect. You just have to have an enemy positioned above you, and the more directly above you the enemy is, the higher your rocket jump will go. And like normal jumps, holding the bind for some time, at least half a second as you're going up, will give you a bit more height. So to get back up to our save at Sorrow, we're going to do one of two rocket jumps. These are the same speed, so you can pick your poison. I'll just show you both of them. So the first one I did again, here we go. Go down to this frog. For this one you have to hold your bind a bit to get enough height to catch this bottom bird, and then we'll just do some charge dash bashes, and we're back up there. Now the other one is pretty much the same speed. You have to deal with bashing a frog around, but it's a little bit easier to get the height. You don't have to hold the bind all the way, and you don't have to have the guy directly above you for it to work. So you could get dash to the right, send this frog over here with a few bashes, and then rocket jump on him, and that'll work. And then we're back up at our save on Sorrow, and ready to move into the next part.